exam style for the finals, but still we have to continue with that, right? Who are you? Oshmita? I am your history teacher. Who are you? I am fine. Oshmita, you don't know me. Then again, sorry? What is sorry? Oshmita, are you feeling sleepy? Yes. Now it's okay. Okay. See, Oshmita, everybody is laughing. You're guiding me. Wait a minute, students. Go, Pishan, go. Pishan, go. Yeah. হ্যাঁ হবে তো বটে, আমরা সব কন্টেইনমেন্ট জোন থেকে আসছি। অস্মিতা অটো কারেক্ট, ওকে। অটো কারেক্টে রং বানানটা কি করে কারেক্টেড হচ্ছে? ওকে, ফাইন। So as you know that in last day we have completed the chapter and we have also wrote the questions also. So now it's your turn to write the answers of those questions and send me back. And the thing is that today we are going to start the third book or the third portion of your syllabus. This portion, in this portion also you have several chapters which are deleted, but several chapters as it's deleted, I got a chance to explain the remaining chapters in a detailed way. That's a good way, that's a good thing for you, okay. So today we are going to start the third book. I hope all of you have this one, this book, that is Themes in Indian History Part 3, and we are starting the chapter called Colonialism and the Countryside. Those students who are with me, means whom I am teaching from class 8, they know that, or if they remember at all, I don't know, but I hope that they know I gave a very simple definition of this colonialism. Colonialism is a word, is a type of, what we can say, it's a type of ruling system, it's a political term, it's a political philosophy definitely. So what does this mean? This colonialism means, in a very easy sense, in a very easy manner, it means that one country when comes to another country and then first captures, then controls the politics, economy and the people of that country is known as colonialism. Again I am repeating, if you want to write it down in a very simple way, what is colonialism? This is colonialism, is that colonialism is a system. Colonialism is a system in which a mother country comes to another country and first captures, then controls. These two words are very important. First captures, then controls the politics, society and the people of that country. That is known as colonialism. Okay. So, we are starting the topic colonialism and the countryside, and we know that when we talk about colonialism in India, we mean that the British rule in India. Britain was the mother country who came to India, being some businessmen, being some traders, and then they started to capture, then control the politics, economy and society of India. So, that history we will study in this phase in this book. So, first we have to little bit understand about the capture. First man, I told you in the last chapter that Thomas Roe, a British man, came to the court of Jahangir. By that time, the Britishers, they came as traders and they were simply traders. No other motive was there. But slowly, as time went on, as the Mughal Empire after the death of Aurangzeb became weak, the other ideas of colonialism became stronger within this British company, that is the East India Company. It is known as the East India Company, or in short EIC. Understood? So, different ideas of EIC was going on and they were growing up. In this scenario, what happened? That they first came very close to Bengal. At first, they came very close to Bengal during 18th century. And in 18th century, the 18th century Bengal was ruled by the Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowlah. They had their capital at Murshidabad, and from Murshidabad Siraj-ud-Dowlah was ruling, and the grandfather of Siraj-ud-Dowlah, whose name was Ali Vardi Khan. So, Ali Vardi Khan gave permission to the East India Company to have a trading center at Kolkata. So, they were having a trading center, but during the time of Siraj-ud-Dowlah's rule, interests of the company became larger. They became more, what we can say, deep. They became more conscious about other things, right? So, what happened as a result? In the middle of 18th century, in 1757, the Battle of Plassey took place. The Battle of Plassey took place in the year 1757, in which we have a traitor who went against Siraj-ud-Dowlah and he joined his hands with the Britishers, whose name was Mir Jafar, and thus Siraj-ud-Dowlah was defeated by the British East India Company under Robert Clive. And as Siraj-ud-Dowlah was defeated, from 1757, British East India Company or English East India Company, they started to rule over Bengal. But slowly, this Bengal or the rule of Bengal went to the hands of another person who was the son-in-law of Mir Jafar, whose name was Mir Qasim. So Mir Qasim didn't like the interference of the Britishers. So Mir Qasim, in the year 1764, he again fought. Plassey is the name of a place. Jibonangshu, Plassey is the name of a place. Battle of Plassey. So in the year 1764, he fought, means Mir Qasim, he fought another battle with the British East India Company. It was known as Battle of Buxar. Battle of Buxar. But in this battle, Mir Qasim was not alone. Mir Qasim, who was the ruler of Bengal, who was the Nawab of Bengal, had with him the ruler of Awadh. The ruler of Awadh, whose name was Shuja-ud-Dawla. Please don't get confused with Shiraj and Shuja. Awadh's ruler Shuja-ud-Dawla and the Mughal emperor Shah Alam II. This part is not there in your book, but without understanding this part, without the capturing portion, you cannot understand the colonialism. So that's why I am discussing this part. So what I was discussing, that in 1764, in the year 1764, the Bengal Nawab Mir Qasim had joined his hands with Awadh Nawab of Awadh Shuja-ud-Dawla and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II, and jointly they declared a war against the British Company in 1764 at the Battle of Buxar. But in this battle also, the united front of Mir Qasim was defeated by the British East India Company. So in a way, three rulers of India, they were defeated by the British Company. Simple company is there. Okay, so they were defeated in this battle. Who? The Bengal Nawab, the Empire of Bengal was defeated. The Empire of Awadh, which is now in UP, Awadh is the Lucknow region. So Awadh is also defeated, and the Mughal Emperor, who is the actual Emperor of India, he is also defeated. So now the British East India Company was in a very advantageous position. They were in a very advantageous position, so they dictated the treaty. And according to the treaty, after the Battle of Buxar in 1765, the British East India Company, that means the EIC, got the Diwani rights. What is a Diwani right? This Diwani is not related with your Diwani hai Jawani or Jawani hai Diwani, not related to that. This Diwani, means with the office. You have read about that, right? So this Diwani rights means the right to collect revenue. So in 1765, the East India Company got the right to collect revenue from Bengal Presidency or the Bengal State. Bengal State during 1765 was a huge state. It consisted modern day West Bengal, modern day Bangladesh, modern day Assam, modern day Bihar, Jharkhand, parts of Odisha and eastern UP. So you can imagine the whole eastern India was under the Bengal state or the Bengal presidency. So that huge portion came under the direct control of the Britishers or the British company. And now they were told, they were given the permission to collect the revenue. Understood? So what did they do? They started making new rules. They started making new rules of revenue. As I told you at the earlier of the class, that remember the definition of colonialism, that it first captures, then controls. So the capturing part was completed by the 1765. Now the controlling part starts. And in the controlling part, what is very essential, that first you control the revenue, that means economy, then you control their politics, and then you control the people. So firstly they started to make new rules of collection of revenue, because Mughal rules according to them were backdated and old. So they wanted some new rules. Okay? So till now, any questions? Any questions, any doubts? Okay, so let me move further. So as they plan something, they started to have new plans. Where were you, Mona Lisa? The EIC got the right to collect the revenue because they were defeated. They have defeated the Mughal Empire in the Battle of Boxer. So in the treaty following it, they got it because they were the winning party. Okay. So what I was telling, that they invented some new rules of revenue and they pressurized the Indian zamindars and Indian rajas to pay that revenue. Sometimes there were some problems and sometimes the actual land of the zamindars, they were sold by the Britishers. Why? Because sometimes the actual amount which was to be paid as revenue, which was declared by the Britishers, could not be paid by the zamindar or by the peasants. As it was like that, as a rule, the Britishers, they used to sell the whole zamindari of that zamindar, and a new zamindar or any new person who had the money to buy it, they could buy the land. Sometimes there are some tricks which continued, like you have in your book, the syllabus, the case of Bardhaman Rajas, the Mehtabs. They had a very peculiar case. What is that? It was like when it was told that, like for example, that annually the Vardhaman Raja has to pay 50,000 rupees as revenue on a particular day. For example, it is 15th March. So by 15th March, the Vardhaman Raja has to pay 50,000 rupees to the EIC or the East India Company. But they failed to do it because the peasants under Vardhaman Raja, they failed to give revenue amounting this much, because the Raja will not only give the revenue, right? The Raja's land or the Zamindar's land will be cultivated by the peasants, then the peasants will give the revenue, and from that revenue amount the Zamindar or the Raja is going to pay the actual revenue to the company. And the Vardhaman Rajas, they failed. So their land was auctioned. Their land was auctioned. That means it was to be sold in the market. When it was sold, some people who gave the highest price, they bought it and they signed the papers, and there is a time limit that within 6 months they had to pay that amount to the company and they will take over the Zamindari of Vardhaman Rajas. But 6 months passed, nobody paid that auction money. So after 6 months, again the auction took place and again somebody bought it, but they also didn't pay the auction money. What actually was going on? What actually was going on was this, that officials of Vardhaman Rajas, they were buying the property on behalf of their Raja, because the Raja Sahib has told them that go and buy it on your name, and after they buy it, they transfer the document of the property to the Raja, and they for 6 months they did not pay it. Again another auction took place, again some other official, Jivanankshu, if you don't know the meaning of auction, you refer to the dictionary please. It's class 12, you are in class 12 and you are studying in class in an English medium school. If you don't know the meaning of auction. Okay, so what I was discussing that, so in the next auction also the same thing happened, and in the meantime what happened, that the Vardhaman Raja, they transferred their most of the property, mostly 80% of their property in the name of their wives and in the name of their mothers. Why? Because the Britishers made a rule that property of the women will not be taxable. Is not taxable. So when the third time the auction was to be there, the Britishers, they saw that the property is no longer in the hands of the Vardhaman Rajas. It is in the hand of the Vardhaman Rani. So it is not taxable. So in this way, some of the kings or Rajas or Zamindars, they have saved their land. They have saved their Zamindari from the bad rules or the bad revenue systems of the Britishers. So now we have to understand that what actually were the bad systems which was not liked, which was not accepted by the by the Indians. There were many revenue systems which was introduced by the Britishers during this time. Most of the systems are not there in your syllabus, but questions can come. No revenue system has been detailed described in your book, but questions may come in the board exam. That is a problem with your syllabus. So, I have a second class today, you know it, there is a third period. So, in that class, I will discuss the three of it. So, if you want, you can bring your pens and copies, and while I give you the note, while I discuss, you can take a running note and keep that as a record to you, because the names are mentioned in your book, but it is not described. So, I will describe the three revenue systems introduced by the British East India Company during this time. The number one was permanent settlement. Number two is Mahalwari settlement, and number three is the Rayatwari settlement. These three settlement patterns, or these three revenue systems, were introduced by the Britishers during the rule, and which I will discuss in my next class. Understood? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, so as you have no questions, second letter key. Second letter is Mahalwari settlement. Understood, Jivanangshu? Okay, fine. So, I will stop here in this class today. In my next class, I will discuss about the three revenue systems, and we will talk about the chapter later, right? Okay, so bye bye.